As we're discussing this, the horror of Shakahola mass graves. When does faith cross the line into extremism? With me in studio, we have Reverend Dr. Simeon Dera Ngwono and Dr. Nelson Makanda, and we'll be joined on phone shortly by Professor Jesse Mugambi. He is a professor of philosophy and religious studies, University of Nairobi. So before we took the break, there's several questions I asked, and I'll come back to you, Reverend Dr. Adera, on the question of where. So we'll come back to definitions, mainstream, evangelical, but where was the church? Why is the church speaking up now? And yet questions where his doctrine is concerned. And when I say he, I'm referring to Paul Mackenzie. And he said he's retired from being a pastor. He wants to be known as now Mr. Because you can visit nation.africa on YouTube. There's an interview they did with a gentleman. So he said he wants to be called Mr. He was a pastor for 10 years, 2009 to 2019. But in that period, actually from 2017, questions were raised regarding their doctrine. Why didn't the church step in then? Why didn't they speak up then?
Well, thank you. Probably before I talk on that, allow me just to add a few things on what Dr. Makanda just finished before we went on break.
And that was on the definition of a cult?
Just how you know
characterize.
The characters of a cult. Mm-hmm. I think one of them would also be that a cult would prey on vulnerabilities and weaknesses of people. And especially during this time when many people are going through harsh economic times. There's a lot of mental issues around, a lot of probably what we can call rejection. So it is very possible for cults to prey on that and begin to sway people and begin to show as if they will give more love than your colleagues or your family or the circles around you. They also seem to have the view that they are the only ones who have access to God or to any kind of revelation. So that if you must reach God, you cannot go through any other person except them. And so with that, therefore, they begin to embark on indoctrination, brainwashing, teaching particular issues that make you more open, more vulnerable to accept their teaching. And if at any point that you begin to criticize or to critique or to have questions or to feel like you want to leave the group, then there are threats, there are of death, punishments, so that you are deterred. But coming to what you have asked, I believe the church has not been wholly silent. I believe almost from the year 2017, pockets of the church have raised the red flag on the teachings and the practices of this man, Mackenzie. And so I don't think the church has been quite silent. Probably we can say that there might have not been quite an organized presser by the church or a write-out by the church, but there has been red flags that the church has called upon.
All right. Yeah. I'll ask you to answer the same question, Dr. Makanda. Where has the church been? Why has it taken 90 deaths, at least 90 bodies uncovered, unearthed, and we have over, let's say, about 40 people who have been rescued at least in the last day or so. Why hold press conferences one after the other yesterday, the day before? Did you address this previously?
Allow me to begin by saying that that question is for all Kenyans. It's not just where has the church been, where has the media been, where has the government been, because these are citizens of a republic. 90 people dead and a few others are emaciated to a point of death. It's not a small thing. So where have we been? I think it's the question that we need to be asking, so that then we are not pointing at one person. Allow me to say that this country in 2010 adopted an extremely liberal constitution with a Bill of Rights that enshrines almost absolute liberties, and one of those is the freedom of religion and belief. Until we have an act of parliament that limits what is the freedom of religion and belief, it remains absolute, and none of us can be able to curtail anybody. I mean, you have heard of Jesus of Tongaren in the recent past. What can a church do? What will Evangelical Alliance of Kenya or National Council of Churches of Kenya or Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops do to stop Jesus of Tongareni? We know that he's cultic, his teachings are wrong, but there isn't much that we can do because there is an extreme liberty that enshrined in the Constitution. And even government themselves must find a way of dealing with that challenge. I think that will be my response. But then number two is to say that this matter came up. My own leaders, Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, leaders in Kilifi, led by our chairman, Amos Lewa, they raised this matter. They went to Malindi Police, raised this matter, I think in 2017 or 2019, when he was talking about no education, children banning their certificates. This person was arrested. That's the time when Mheshimiwa Aisha Jumwa was also speaking about it. He was arrested. 2 days he was released. They went again. Another matter came up. They made a complaint, a similar complaint. The police went over there. Nothing happened. When these reports were insistent, he closed up his church in Malindi town and relocated to a new place. So there isn't much that we can do. How can we enforce worship and believe, and it's personal and people follow? So I think the church hasn't been silent. It's just that the teachings sometimes, when people hear them, sometimes we may make fun about them. We may make cartoons out of them. But when they become extreme as they are, now we begin to ask and say, we wish we had taken we had taken some actions. But churches have no capacity to superintend over others. Every institution that is registered in Kenya has a constitution. And this constitution is presented to the Register of Societies. Register of Societies takes time to ask the Kenyan security intelligence to determine who is Olive Barrow before we register this institution. Sometimes it will take a month, 3 months. They do due diligence. After that, they sign off the institution, they gazette it, and it becomes an independent institution under the laws of Kenya. And so people must be asked to operate under the laws of Kenya. What we are saying is that it is not possible to eliminate some things that are there, but we can be able to detect what's extreme, and when we detect what's extreme, let's not take them lightly, because we have enshrined freedom of worship and belief. Let government, let the authorities also take action. But perhaps let's begin to ask ourselves, what else do we need to do? How do we strengthen the laws that are existing so that then we are able to take charge of this type of preachers? And many will emerge. I tell you, this man is not alone. There are many others who are preying on Kenyans, and Kenyans are taking all their hard-earned wealth and laying at their feet, because these are servants of God. In quotes, Evangelical Alliance has no powers to stop people who want to do those type of things. We can point out and say this is an error, but that's as far as it may go.
Okay.
Yes.
You wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, probably. Let me just say that just like in trying to detect fake money, sometimes you need to first understand and have a grasp on the genuine money. And I think one of the things that the church, both in the local setup and in the national setup, has also been disappointed, because one, as they try to do religious literacy or Bible literacy, it has emerged in our time that the fourth estate, that is supposed to help expose some of these things would most likely go to things that can sell. So that if a church probably is just having sound teaching, proper teaching, it may be branded as boring, mainstream, and things like that. So I think we need to kind of overhaul our way of thinking and our way of doing things, so that, because like now, this is news almost every day because it is horrific, there's a massacre. But what about the others who are doing the right thing, teaching the cornerstone of their faith or their religion? So I think there's need for that balance.
But does that responsibility fall to the Fourth Estate? Your thoughts?
I'm saying that this is a responsibility for every Kenyan. It's a multi-sectoral responsibility for all those who have been given responsibilities, empowered by the Constitution, by the existing laws, to be able to promote life, to promote harmony, to promote order, as it is enshrined in our Constitution.
All right, and I was pulling up the editorial cartoon from yesterday's Daily Nation, and you had mentioned doomsday, right, type of teaching. And this is the editorial cartoon. The government is depicted as an ostrich with its head buried in the sand, and coffins walking into doomsday cults. And you've explained some of how people you'd imagine are educated, some of them exposed, would fall prey to these kinds of teaching. And both of you have listened to you, and I'm hearing a lot about isolation. Isolating this person from their family and their friends. You know, them finding themselves in a position where they can't question. They follow without question. They don't challenge, they don't criticize. This indoctrination, does it happen over time? Is it a question of a predator? You know, these people, because I had mentioned the word charismatic, are these people psychopaths, sociopaths? The kind of people who can, sleep, eat when people have died?
Maybe they should
as a consequence of their teachings.
Maybe they should be called spiritual path or whatever it is.